All right. Welcome everybody to the October 28th Octant community meeting. I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us this week. Um, I mentioned in our Slack channel and on Twitter that we're doing a new thing for this, starting with the community meeting. So at the last community meeting of every month, we're going to be doing a kind of like end of month review where we talk about good first issues and getting started. We will reserve that for the end of the community meeting, but we'll essentially take up the rest of the allotted time as needed to kind of go over those things and um, uh, you know, add labels to any issues that might be good candidates, talk about the ones that already have labels, organize them, and then answer any questions and help people who are currently trying to work on some of these issues. So that's a new thing we'll be doing. So if you are interested in that, hang out until the end and join us. So with that, I will get started. First, I want to talk about the progress update on 016.2. We've created this ZenHub board, which should load here, I think, soon, slowly. Perfect. That's exactly what I thought might happen. So let's see. Let's just go back to here, and instead of doing that, so I don't feel like signing in again, we'll go to, there's a milestone that's attached to that ZenHub board, so we'll go ahead and just pull that up directly in GitHub here. There we go. So this is the 0.16 milestone that's currently in progress. You can see a lot of these have pull requests from Milan and Sam and myself, and there's one that was closed out. So this is where you can kind of find the status of those things. Yeah, we're just actively working through these. Expect to see them landing sometime this week, and then probably a release for these things early next week. If there's something in this list, I encourage you to go to our GitHub issues, look at the milestone, and if there's something in here that you think is a good candidate for 0.16.2 that hasn't made it in, please feel free to comment on that issue or bring it up at the end of this community meeting in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to consider it for that. The purpose of 0.16.2 is to kind of get some plugin fixes in place for plugin authors, make their lives easier, and then address just some of the outstanding bugs around anything that kind of crashes Octant or makes it not render stuff to the screen because it's like a error that we're not handling well. That's kind of the goal of 0.16.2. So keep that in mind when you are going through and considering issues for it. Is there anything that I missed with that? Sam, anything? Milan? Cool.
Nope.
So moving on to Electron. Yeah, Electron going to be Electron. And so Sam and I have been investigating some different options for Electron. Looking at our current builder, which is not functioning essentially, is in its current state in master. And so we're evaluating kind of why and how and what that might look like if we were to fix that in place. We're also kind of looking from the top down of like, okay, what if we take a clean Electron build, something from Electron Builder and like a Hello World shell, and then start to bring our pieces into it and create like a known good state that way. So we're exploring the different ways to kind of make it good. We want to avoid just wrapping this in a web view and calling an Electron. We really want that like native feel when you use Octant once it's an Electron. So we're slow and steady on this, but we're being careful to make sure that we ultimately do what we feel is the best for Octant and the best for the users of Octant. So I don't really have much else to add there except that it's still in progress. We're actively working on it. Sam, is there anything you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, so the there is going to be a couple of interesting things that I've noticed. So like one like the Monaco editor we talked about. There's also like Electron also comes with its own API for key bindings as well. So uh, there will be like little pieces of like functionality that we will have to rewrite. So so the move to Electron, it's not necessarily tech debt, but it's we have to consider like supporting both the binary and Electron for a moment, and possibly even both forever. But we just have to be aware that there's some nuances to uh, running Electron.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. And yeah, I think we mentioned this, but just to in case people haven't heard it before, our first release of the in 0.17 Electron, we're going to essentially ship both builds. But once we have established Electron as part of our build pipeline and we start to ship it, we will within a release or two be announcing that like the console version is going to be going away, and then after another release or two, we'll stop shipping it. So just kind of be prepared for that over the next few months. It's going to be a slow process. We'll be very loud about it, but you should know that it's coming. Uh, yes, it's coming. There will be people who are still surprised by it, and we know that. And I apologize to you in advance. And that's it for Electron. So the community survey. This was something we mentioned at the last community meeting, and we want to mention it again. So first, I want to say thank you to everyone who has already filled it out, and we just wanted to re-encourage everyone to, uh, if you haven't filled it out and you use Octant and you like Octant or you don't like Octant, go fill it out. Your feedback really helps us make Octant better. And so we really appreciate that. We know it's like a little bit of time out of your day, and we do really appreciate and value it. And it goes directly into making Octant better. So, Isha, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, just want to echo that. All the responses so far have been super helpful. I feel like it's too long. You don't have to fill out the entire survey, like almost everything's optional. So yeah, it's very helpful if you have a little bit of time to fill it out.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And Isha was the one who worked to create that survey and get the blog post up that you've seen on octant.dev and all the messaging on Twitter and everything. So thank you, Isha, for putting a lot of time and effort into kind of building that survey out. It's been even the responses we've gotten so far have been really great. Anything else before we move on to the do we want to do so I guess here's a question for folks. Do we want to do the open Q&A before we do this kind of end of month review? I think so, right? Because the end of month review to me should just come at the end.
Yeah, I think I was the only one who added questions to the document, so I'm excited for bumping it up. Unless somebody else also has additional Q&A, maybe on, I don't have the YouTube stream open, but
Yeah, no
if
questions
not.
on YouTube or Slack that I'm seeing right now, so we can move on to these. Sam, if you want, since you put them in there, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, so the first one is, and these could also be in the form of issues, but I thought I only thought of them this morning, so maybe be active in the community meeting. So the first one is related to the applications view, and I don't really know how many people actually use it, simply because it's not the default view that Octant boots up into, but um, it's effectively this view where if you have the metrics server booted up, it'll tell you about your memory and usage. But if not, it'll just be a bunch of donut charts that shows which pods are active and which pods aren't. And so one thing we could think about doing is making these donut charts clickable, right? So maybe we could have it so then if you were to click like an orange section of the donut chart that represents like pods which are currently in a bad state, you could click them and it'll automatically take you to like a pod table view, well, with the filter for all of the pods that are currently in that state. Just to see if we can start leveraging that application view and make it a bit more useful. And eventually, I think the goal is to move away from our default overview page, which is just a list of data grids, which stops becoming useful if there are a lot of things on the cluster. So I'd say probably the thing that I wanted to get an opinion on is if you were to have a clickable donut chart and it's got different colors and you click that color, what do you expect to see?
Sam, do you have a visual that you could share?
Yeah, maybe. We can see if,
It's okay if you don't.
let me spin up Octant real quick.
While they do that, I just wanted to comment, typically charts or the donut charts, maybe less more than the other ones, are not used as navigational elements. But in this case, I think it might be useful as long as we don't show too many, which we currently don't. So, and technically, I think that's pretty easy to do inside the SVG components view. So I think it would be kind of neat, actually. We also had a request for tooltips for donut charts, and that is different thing we can explore.
Yeah, the tooltips for donut charts and just the charts in general. I think long term, I would like to move away from us having chart components and move towards us using web components to allow people to embed charts.
Great.
And I don't know what that looks like yet, but that's like because there's so many different kinds and there's so much different like customizations people can make to a chart and the graphics they want and like how. So if there's a way that we can make it so that you can just use an Octant web component and in that you can then put in like there's a props that gets passed in so you have access to data and it can link to wherever it needs to link to, but then you're just using whatever chart library you want to use. That's my ideal scenario. I don't even know how we would do that, but that's something I've been thinking on that I would like to explore eventually.
Yeah, I agree, but some core charts, like Donut is a probably good example. Might be good idea to have those built in. If for nothing else, then just to make sure that we have a common user experience when plugin authors, for example, use them, so we don't have a huge variety of different visualizations.
Yeah, I understand that. I think we can. The thing is like I don't want to pin Octant to some chart library, and then now we are the maintainers of this chart library because we're heavily invested in it within Octant, right? And especially in the JavaScript ecosystem where chart libraries are changing all the time and there's new ones and some go away and like I would much rather say like here's an Octant web component. Here's great examples of how to use this chart library that we recommend with it. And then later, if that chart library gets deprecated or stops being supported and whatever, then we can just be like, hey, we now recommend this one. And it doesn't like people who still use the old one still use the old one. And yeah, the experience between various plugins would be different, but we could stay consistent within Octant itself and make sure that anywhere we are doing charts as part of core, we're using the same library and then just recommend people use that library.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, Sam's got a screen share going.
Yeah, so my metrics server is hosed from testing some other things right now, so I have to use the storybook just to get an example running. So essentially, you'd have this donut chart, and if say one of the pods were in like a warning state, or if it were just being deleted, whatever, right? If it's not running as expected, it would be orange or red, and so it would be reflected on a segment of this donut chart. And currently, right now, you cannot interact with this donut chart in any way. It's used in a card component, and it's got links, and it'll link you to a resource viewer. And so the idea is let's add interactivity to this donut chart. And and so I think that's the reference to it. It also, we could also even think about this as like doesn't necessarily have to be a donut chart. We could even start thinking about like pie charts and other type of interactive graphs that might belong in an applications view. But I think having that level of interactivity, but keeping the view more generalized, like the applications view, is probably something we want to do. I think that seems to be the right path. But yeah, nothing. I don't really have any like substantial ideas yet. I might just try to, like, for example, I don't even know how to link to a table with a filter. That would be an interesting problem in itself, right? Because I don't think we can do that with pre-rate params right now. So maybe we can like figure out what that end state should be to save a little bit of work. But in the meantime, I'll start experimenting with this idea a little bit. Cool. So that's so that's for the applications view. Cool.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I like kind of where the vein of that idea. I like where it's going. Being able to like apply the filtering of a table server side, I think would be something that, because right now it is all client side, so that would be useful. Similar to how we filter by selectors, like the label selectors we can filter on. Setting up table selectors or filters server side would be nice. And then I think this was brought up in one of the walkthroughs we did with a community member. I swear, or I think it was, but the nested navigation, like you can't link directly to a tab right now. And that would be, so like a combination of those two things, like being able to filter what's on the page through labels and table filters, and then also being able to link directly to a specific tab would really give us a lot of freedom in like what interactions and what things do. You could start to scope things down to like, when you click this, you go to the logs page, the logs of the pod, and the log filter is already applied and it looks like this. Like things like that, just to say like, oh, show me all the errors for this pod, and like only error lines show up or whatever. Like, so I like, so just think about like those larger scenarios like that as you're thinking about this, right? Like, yeah, it'd be cool to be able to link from applications view, but like just more generically, like linking to any view with any set of things filtered and selected would be nice.
Cool. Can we move on to the second Q&A question?
Yep.
I don't have
anything else for that one.
Anything else? Yeah, cool. So the second question, I don't know if we have the. Yeah, that's okay. We don't need to pull up the notes, but it is the idea that I see a lot of requests for Octant being in cluster, and one of the arguments is that if it's in cluster, then you don't have to distribute Octant as a tool, and it circumvents like just people can just log on to just log onto an endpoint in the cluster and just have a dashboard. So the idea here is, well, what if we do it the other way, right? Because because that would lend to the question, okay, well then how do people get kube control or like Helm and like some other tools? And I figure, well, what if Octant could just have like the ability to create a console, like similar to how we do the terminal tabs, and in there we just package in, and like it could create a pod, and that pod can run a container that already has kube control and Helm or whatever the tools are. So then now we just bubble down whatever cluster tools a developer might need into some configuration file, and all they're doing is just using Octant to just spin up a pod, and because it already has access to the cluster with the kubeconfig, now they can just talk to the cluster with it, and now it kind of solves that tool distribution problem, and they're incentivized to keep Octant locally now because because it effectively solves that class of problems of how do we distribute Octant for them, because now we're saying, well, now you only need to distribute Octant and not worry about the tools. But yeah, so I wanted to see if people had thoughts on that one as well. I'd say like the reason why I say like Octant should be spinning up a pod is because I don't ever see like Octant being like a tool that bundles itself with like, I don't want to see like often like ship with kubectl or ship with Helm, because then all of a sudden we have to start maintaining versions. So the better way is just to make that configurable to begin with, and just leverage containers where possible. And so then now we'd probably have to do some like work to make sure that whatever the kubeconfig is is accessible to that pod, and then it's usable in the cluster. But I think there's potential here. I don't know like in practice if this is actually useful. So
I think this is an amazing idea, Sam. Like seriously, like I think this is a fantastic idea. Like having just a tools pod that gets deployed, and there's a console for it, and it's just open, and those tools are connected somehow to the same context, and potentially even aliases for the current namespace, right? Like you like when you click open, you're just in that context, and then when you switch contexts, maybe there's some way that it is switching context as well. But in the short term, just a kind of one, like, here's the tools and you have all the things. I think this is a great idea. I want to use this now. Is it ready? Have you done it?
Yeah, that's sort of we're dreaming right now.
No, yeah, I think that's my feedback. I think like it is worth thinking about this, and just I think considering how we would do it, what it might look like, what those initial set of tools would be, because I think it's a great idea, especially as we move to being an application where potentially, the given certain options, we could spin that up on a local machine using local Docker versus in their cluster, right? And then a terminal can not have any lag between like going up to APIs and stuff like that. Again, that's way out in the future. This is a great idea.
Yeah, I think like probably the goal for like doing this community meeting is just more to see like one, to get validation of the idea, and two, it's sort of like we have things on the roadmap already. So like it's like, yeah, it's a cool idea, but I'm not sure like if we'll get to it like even in the like next couple months. So it's like if this sounds like something we want to do, or if there's validation for it, we can adjust the roadmap as needed. But just want like I think like the idea to come across here is that like we have things that we're going to be working on, and unless like there's a compelling reason to say yes, we are in fact going to do this and we want this now, it'll just stay a good idea.
It should stay a good idea as an issue in our backlog.
Yes, we will keep the discussions going out of meetings, and yeah, these should all be issues. I think that's really what we're getting at here.
Yeah, that's what it's for, right? Decide if they should be or not. I think they should. Yeah, they're worth it.
Cool. That's all I have for Q&A.
All right. Last call for any Q&A discussion before we move on. Oh, I see. Hey, just Mark was watching the YouTube stream. Hi, Mark. I used to work with Mark. actually multiple times I worked with Mark. All right. So now we're going to get into this new kind of thing we're doing, which is this end of month review. I think it's actually gonna be really helpful and for us as well as the community. So just to quickly cover, the goal here is to provide help and answer questions if you're already working on an issue, add more context to issues as we discuss them, and then surface and label any issues that might be good candidates that currently aren't labeled. So with that, I think what we'll do is just start off looking at the current set of issues that we have and go from there. Pods running on each node. So this issue was actually one that I labeled as a good first issue. Let me increase the font size on this. So this is one that I actually labeled as a good first issue, and the reason I did is because it is one thing. It's kind of this contained piece that is creating a whole new view, specifically around what happens when you click on a node in Octant. Right now, as they point out, you can do a kubectl describe node, and what you get is this list of everything that's running on the node, including resource usage. And right now in Octant, when you click on a node, you don't get that. You get a screen that is not very helpful. So the reason I like this was because it touches everything, but it does it in a contained way. You're just not just, but you are making a describer and maybe you're really making a new describer for the nodes, and how we display those. And I think that this is a good one for someone to take. It would definitely involve some hands-on working with the team. You'd have to learn kind of the front end and back end APIs, and you'd be definitely in the internals package dealing with our describers and printers, and listing and pulling things from the object store, using probably the cluster client that we have inside the API. So this would actually, I think this would be a really fun one for someone to do. I almost did it on the weekend, but I was like, we should save things like this for maybe someone else to come in and look at them and do them. Because I was like, oh, we could do this. So anyone want to add anything to this one that I might have just overlooked?
Yeah, it's probably, if anything, there's going to be a lot of typing. I'd say like PRs like this that modify things under the printer typically are just verbose.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who is thinking about picking up this as a good first issue, I'd say it's still, it's not difficult, but there are just a lot of pieces to think about. So, and I don't think we have much. Like a lot of times we probably just rely on people to discover, I guess there are the two pieces, right? Like just understanding like how the types are defined, then how to use client Go, and then also like understanding how Octant gives things to the object store. And so they kind of have to learn all those abstractions on their own before being able to work on an issue like this. So maybe there's room also like for whoever picks this up to help improve our documentation, or just like talk about what was difficult about getting ramped up to be productive for this issue.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And then the next, so here's one. This one was opened recently. It is change the default shell to bash. Sam pointed out this interesting approach of just attempting to try multiple shells until one works. And I actually think that is a pretty good idea. resource wise, it doesn't cost that much to just go ahead and try, you just loop through a handful, right? Try maybe bash first, or even, could even add in like ZSH is becoming more common. I don't know how common it is on containers, but it is becoming more common. So you could loop through a set of standardized terminals, shells, and then, go into the first one that works and just kind of put them in the order of like most useful. And yeah, the effort involved in doing this, really, it looks, I followed this example that Sam provided in the crew plugins, and in a similar manner to looking for a user, you could do it for shells. I wouldn't say it's complicated. Where we do terminal sessions, like where we create the terminal, is it can be grepped for easily in our code. It's like you just search for terminal, you'll like find a lot of the spots where we do our terminal creation, and I think you can also search for, I think we're hard coded sh. I'm pretty sure if you search for bin sh, you'll find exactly where we've hard coded it. So that is, yeah, that's kind of all I got for that one.
So I like that approach, but I have two concerns. I don't know, maybe we shouldn't get into that. Maybe we should take that offline. I was kind of hoping we're gonna give user a little more control over this, because I like the idea of doing the like a search but to me that sounds like a special option, like a auto detection of the one that they can use. But at least me as a user, I would really like to know which one I'm using and which one is default, and be able to change that in case I don't know. So I'm still thinking that we should kind of combine this with the preferences and do this auto option that will go and pick the one that works. That's like, that might be the default value, but still, if I want to use I don't know, bash, as a user, I would prefer to be able to go there and say that explicitly.
Yeah, so I can give a little extra background into that. Sam can too. Sam and I both worked on the first iteration of terminals in Octant. We had the ability to select the shell originally.
Right.
Most cases, people have no idea what shell's available. So they would be like, "Oh, I selected bash and the thing fails." I'm like, "Oh, well, that container only has sh." Right? And they'd actually,
right.
So in most cases, they actually don't know what shell is even in the container, if there is one at all. And so we removed that and just defaulted to bin sh, since it was the most common.
I see.
So I think providing a selector when it's just going into some random pod is less useful than maybe like when it is like what Sam was talking about, where we're having like this Octant console. Then that I could see having a preference of saying, like, we have these 3 shells installed, you can pick the one you want.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. My other concern is, just since we'll have to do that every time, it's going to be a little bit of latency delay there. So in case it fails, right, at the first one. So
right.
But yeah, I like the idea, especially now, and when I think about it, based on that. Cool.
Yeah, I thought his request here was actually to exec as a user, because he wanted sudo. I thought that was
right?
more difficult.
Why upon default? I think you're right. No, it's just
thought it was.
No, yeah, they're just saying that so when they log in, the default shell is sh. Sh is limited. Every time they log in, they're having to switch to bash. I don't know that the switch user is significant there. I think what's significant is that when they drop in, they're dropping in sh and they would rather drop in bash.
Got it. Okay, that's fine. I misread that.
Yeah, there's obviously a little, research work needed there to
This
figure out the
one,
best way to.
yeah, I think that one we can put the PR up and then ping the person and say, hey, is this what you're hoping
Exactly.
for? So this one's actually in progress, and we just wanted to show that it is in progress and call out and Sladin. I think I'm saying that right. Thank you for getting started on this issue. If you're, I don't think they are around right now, but yeah, this one is a good example of a good first issue that someone just picked off and started working. So thank you. That's all I have for that one. I just wanted to say thank you. And Sam's been helping with that one, and I think the review went well, and it's hopefully pretty close to merging. This one, Sam, I don't know what this is. What is this?
Oh, this one is just a change in how generating protobuf files are going to work. So currently we get this deprecation warning because it's missing Go package. And so I haven't really read through the docs on like what that flag is supposed to mean or supposed to do. I think if I recall correctly, they're like the package names, it just has to make sure that they're all unique between the generated files. And this flag just makes sure that you are using unique names everywhere. And this one is just going to be required in the future. So we just want to stay on top of that and just not have our protobuf generation unexpectedly break because of an upgrade cycle.
Cool. Okay. So that one's, yeah, I guess that's a good first issue. I don't know. That seems like there's some intimate detail there that makes it matter. You know what? That's not a good first issue. That's we should be the ones doing that. This is just like, hey, go do our dependency update for. Yeah, ignore that one, folks. We'll do that. So this one's more tests for policy rules view. One, I'm trying to remember. Test more complex rules. There was a to do there. We've had some. Sladian got said they would like to contribute to this one as well. Looks like Sam responded. So I think, is there anything you want to add to this one, Sam? It's been a while. It's back in August. So it's.
Yeah, this one, I think when policy rules was just added, I was being lazy and just added like a set of dummy rules, and there could theoretically be, and maybe not, just better coverage across not just have like blank strings everywhere, but like just a healthy variety of various possible rules and making sure that they just show up properly on the front end as well. And so currently right now, it's just health see and update, right? And so we can just take some more examples and just add a few more into the mix just to make sure it's good. But on the other hand, I've never heard of anyone saying anything about this piece. So it's, just a chore, but test coverage is always good. So
yeah,
it's there.
Cool. And let's see, we've got the last one. This one's been hanging out for over a year. Let's see. What are we doing? What was this? Okay, yeah. Interesting. What are we doing with this? I have no, like, this is a year old. I don't even know what, like, as we move to the Electron build and things like that, is this still needed for us?
Yeah, I think this one's closable just because we eventually moved to just a plain Go script instead of because before we were using make, then we'd have to make sure like the Windows folks had make, and I don't know, there are like 600 different makes you could install.
Okay, so
I'm
this
exaggerating, but like
yeah. So this was specifically around Windows build makefile, and then we moved over to Go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think now it's just they should have Go installed, and if someone is working on this repo, having Go installed is a reasonable requirement.
Okay, cool. I closed it. And that's it. So that's what we have for good first. Let's just review our help wanted real quick, and then we can, if there's any issues you want to surface that haven't been covered that you know about, we'll do that. So in the help wanted, we have the container attributes formatting for long values and command. Now, I don't know that we have a clear distinction between help wanted and good first issue as of right now. Like this might be both. I'm not sure. So we'll go through it right now and find out. Containers attributes for, yeah, that is long. it's and then it pushes all this out of the
Yeah.
card. And then yeah, so that's not great. I think this is potentially both. I think it's help wanted and good first. If you're good at CSS and styling. The suggestion is to switch to a vertical table for everything. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is old, right? Yeah. So this was
Yeah.
before like Ross gave us a once over, and like before we were actually using the wrong thing. We were not using. I think yeah, we weren't using the correct table. I think like this looks vastly different today now, and
Okay.
that flip has already, like the vertical placement has already happened. I think some of the parts in there are still valid.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, we have quite a few places where we
Yeah.
don't show the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so what's the ideal solution? So, for example, this one, container WordPress, should we just do ellipsis probably, I would say, and tooltip?
Yeah, because it's still, so this scrolls now, right, left to right. So it's, so even though it's long,
Oh, I see.
we can still see, you can still see everything now, and there's no more pushing of data out of the way. So yeah, I'm tempted to, I mean, yes, I think the yes, things can be improved, but I'm very tempted to say that this this original issue is fixed. Like the original issue was that everything is pushed out of line, and you can't read it, and it doesn't fit into the container. They're too long, and they're not displayed correctly, right? And I think that that case is fixed now, just based on the current Octant and looking at like this screenshot here.
Right.
Does anyone disagree with that?
We can close this, and I think let's try to be very specific about what we are unhappy with this, and like a long image ID, for example, like we can talk about it, or maybe this shouldn't even scroll at all, and it should just take more space. But I think just being more specific with the issue would help iterating on this.
Yeah, so when I'll mark that one to be closed out, and I'll comment and say, you know, if there are further improvements that you'd like to see, you know, based on, you know, if you have more feedback and further improvements based on how things look now, which you commented back in March, Sam, after those commits went in. So I think we're in a good spot to say, like, here's the updates. Let us know how else we can improve, and we'll do that. Cool. So those are the current ones that we have labeled. Do you do you all have any issues that aren't currently there, like that you know of off the top of your heads? I know we just started doing this month, so it probably have more for next month. But if you have any you can think of off the top of your head that you would like to go over as potential good first issues, we can do that now.
I think every issue is a good first issue. You know, I mean, some require a little more help and a little more guidance, but there's if for everybody out there interested in trying to help us and trying to put their toes in an Octant development, I highly encourage everybody to take any issues they like and it's close to their interests, and we'll definitely help them get to the point where they can be productive. But in the same time, I think this is a great exercise, and we should keep doing it, and not only doing it during this meeting, but also when we go through the issues, and especially on our planning meetings, just to designate good first issues, because that's where people usually start.
Yeah, and that's kind of I'm hoping that it's like a forcing factor, right? Knowing that we are going to be doing this at the end of every month, we'll be like, well, we better have something. So we'll have that in mind as we're looking at issues. But yeah, I mostly agree with the sentiment that all issues are good first issues, but like this one here, right? Streamer test flake, that's not a good first issue. Don't do that. I guess do it if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend that as a good first issue. But yeah, we're happy to help you get as deep into any issue that you are interested in, whether it's front end, back end, a combination of both. But yeah, I think the real goal of the good first issue label is to try and identify the ones that we feel are not so that you can get into and kind of just like complete as this one piece, and here's a deliverable. So
Right.
Yeah, I think that's that covers that. I don't really have anything else. Let me see if it doesn't look like there's any questions. Anyone have anything else before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you everyone as always, and we will see you next week.
See you folks. Bye.